Allie Browning's hands trembled as she stared at the legal document that had just been delivered to her cramped studio apartment. The paper felt like ice against her fingertips, each word a blade twisting deeper into her chest. Countersuit. Fraud. Parental alienation. Full custody. She'd asked for child support. He was suing for her children. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to where stories grip your heart and don't let go. I'm so glad you're here right now. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you team justice for single moms, or do billionaires deserve a second chance? How are you doing today? And hey, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button because you're going to want to see how this story unfolds. Trust me, you won't see this twist coming. Allie's vision blurred. For years of scraping by on double shifts at the diner, of choosing between groceries and electricity, of telling her 5-year-old twins that no, mommy couldn't afford the field trip this month. For years of silence from the man who'd promised her everything one summer night, then vanished when she'd told him she was pregnant. Lon Fischer, billionaire, CEO of Fischer Global Technologies. The man whose face smiled from Forbes covers while his children wore secondhand clothes. She'd finally worked up the courage to file for child support last month. A simple request. A legal right. Just enough to give Emma and Noah a fighting chance. Instead, his response arrived in the form of a $12 million legal team and accusations that made her blood run cold. The plaintiff alleges Ms. Browning deliberately concealed the existence of the minor children and has systematically denied the father all parental rights. Mommy, Emma's small voice cut through the roaring in Allie's ears. Why are you crying? Allie wiped her face quickly, folding the papers before her daughter could see. I'm fine, baby. Go play with your brother. But she wasn't fine, because buried in the legal jargon was something that didn't make sense. Lon Fischer claimed he'd been searching for her for 5 years, that he'd hired investigators, that someone had been feeding him false information about her whereabouts, that he'd only just discovered where she was, which was impossible. She'd never hidden. Same apartment, same job, same life, slowly drowning. Unless someone had been lying to him, unless someone wanted to keep them apart. Allie's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct, she answered. Ms. Browning. The voice was cold, controlled, unmistakably his. We need to talk, because either you're a master manipulator who's been hiding my children, or someone in my family has been playing us both. The line went dead, and Allie realized with horrifying clarity, this wasn't just about money anymore. What secret has been buried for 5 years, and who's been pulling the strings from the shadows? Allie set the phone down with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. 5 years of silence, and now Lon Fischer's voice cut through her kitchen like he'd never left. Like he hadn't walked away when she'd needed him most. Mommy, I'm hungry. Noah appeared beside her, his dark eyes, Lon's eyes, staring up with complete trust. The kind of trust that terrified her. Coming, sweetheart. Allie forced brightness into her voice, moving to the tiny kitchenette. Pasta again. 3rd time this week. She counted the remaining dollars in her wallet. 43 until Friday. Emma bounced over, clutching a drawing. Look, it's us at the beach. Allie's heart cracked. They'd never been to the beach. Emma had drawn it from imagination, from other kids' vacation stories. Blue crayon waves. Yellow sun. 3 stick figures. Mommy, Emma, Noah. No daddy. There never was. It's beautiful, baby. Allie taped it to the refrigerator beside the past-due electricity notice she'd hidden behind a magnet. This was why she'd finally filed. Not for herself. She'd learned to survive on nothing. But Emma needed glasses. Real ones, not the free clinic kind that broke every month. Noah had asthma. His inhaler cost more than her weekly groceries. They deserved better than this endless scramble. They deserved what their father could provide without even noticing the expense. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Jade Dunphy, her only real friend and fellow waitress at Mel's Diner. Girl, you're trending on Twitter. Call me. Allie's stomach dropped. She opened social media with trembling fingers. The headlines hit like a physical blow. Billionaire CEO Lon Fischer in custody battle with mystery woman. Fischer global stock drops 3% amid shocking paternity lawsuit. Who is Allie Browning? The waitress suing for millions. Suing for millions? Allie whispered. She'd asked for $1,500 a month. Enough for basics. Not millions. The articles painted her as a gold digger. A schemer. Someone who'd trapped a billionaire and hidden his children for leverage. Nothing about the text she'd sent that he never answered. The calls that went straight to voicemail. The letter she'd mailed to Fisher Global that was returned marked undeliverable. Nothing about how she'd cried herself to sleep for months after he disappeared. Ms. Browning. A knock at the door made her jump. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in an expensive suit, holding a briefcase. My name is Clarice Lon. I'm an attorney. I'd like to help you. I can't afford. Pro bono. May I come in? Allie hesitated. Emma and Noah were watching cartoons, oblivious to the storm gathering around them. Every instinct screamed not to trust anyone connected to this nightmare. But Lon's words echoed. Someone in my family has been playing us both. If that was true, if someone had deliberately kept them apart, then she wasn't just fighting for child support anymore. She was fighting for the truth, and she couldn't do it alone. Allie opened the door. What Allie doesn't know. The woman standing in her doorway has secrets of her own, secrets that connect directly to the Fisher family's darkest betrayal. Clarice Lon stepped into the cramped apartment with the careful grace of someone navigating a minefield. Her eyes swept the space, the taped-up drawing, the worn furniture, the twins glued to a television that had seen better years, and something flickered across her professional mask. Pity or calculation. Allie couldn't tell which. Ms. Browning, I'll be direct. You're about to be destroyed. Clarice set her briefcase on the small table. Fisher's legal team will bury you in motions, depositions, and character assassinations. They'll paint you as an opportunist who saw a billionaire and dollar signs. By next week, you won't be able to walk into a courtroom without the judge already thinking you're a liar. Allie's legs felt weak. Why are you here? Because I don't think you are a liar. Clarice pulled out a manila folder. And because 3 days ago, I received an anonymous package. Inside were copies of correspondence between Lon Fischer and his head of security dating back 5 years. He was looking for you, Ms. Browning. Actively. Desperately. The room tilted. That's impossible. I never moved. I never hid. Exactly. Clarice opened the folder, spreading documents across the table. Every report his investigator filed said you'd left the state. Changed your name. Disappeared deliberately. Someone was feeding him false information while you were right here, in plain sight. Allie's hands trembled as she scanned the papers. Detailed reports. Fabricated sightings in California, Texas, Oregon. All eyes. Who would do this? That's what we need to find out. Because whoever did this committed fraud, interference with parental rights, and possibly conspiracy. Clarice leaned forward. But here's what you need to understand. Lon Fischer is coming for custody. Full custody. And he has the resources to win. He abandoned us. The words ripped from Allie's throat. Did he? Or did someone make both of you believe that? Clarice's voice softened. I need to know everything. The night you told him you were pregnant. His exact reaction. Every word. Allie closed her eyes, dragged back to that summer night 5 years ago. The rooftop restaurant. Lon's face when she'd whispered the news, terrified and hopeful. He was shocked, but then he smiled. He said, her voice cracked. He said we'd figure out together. That he wanted this. Wanted us. And then he got a phone call. Stepped away for 10 minutes. When he came back, everything changed. He was cold. Distant. Said he needed time to think. I never heard from him again. Clarice's jaw tightened. Who called him? I don't know. But afterward, he looked broken. A knock shattered the moment. Harder this time. Demanding. Allie opened the door and froze. Lon Fischer stood in her doorway, 6 feet of controlled fury in a suit that cost more than her yearly rent. His dark eyes, Noah's eyes, locked onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. We're being played, he said without preamble. And I just found out who's been lying to us both. He held up his phone. On the screen was a photograph that made Allie's blood run cold. My brother, Lon said, voice deadly quiet. He's been destroying us from the start. And now I know why. Allie stared at the photograph on Lon's phone. A man who looked almost identical to him, same sharp jawline, same dark hair, stood outside a courthouse, shaking hands with someone Allie recognized. The building manager from 5 years ago. The one who told her repeatedly that no one named Fisher had come asking for her. Your brother? Her voice barely worked. Damien Fisher, CFO of Fisher Global. My twin. Lon's knuckles were white around his phone, and apparently the architect of 5 years of hell. Mr. Fisher. Clarice stood, professional armor snapping into place. What evidence do you have? Lon stepped fully into the apartment, and Allie instinctively moved between him and the twins. He noticed. Something painful crossed his face. I hired a forensic accountant to audit my personal security firm. Someone's been paying them double, under the table, to feed me false reports about Allie's location. He pulled out a tablet, swiping through bank records. The payments trace back to a shell corporation Damien controls. He's been sabotaging my search from day one. But why? Allie's mind reeled. What does he gain from keeping us apart? Lon's expression darkened. Everything. My father's will stipulates that controlling interest in Fisher Global goes to whichever son produces an heir first. If I'd known about the twins 5 years ago, Damien would have lost billions. The mercenary brutality of it stole Allie's breath. Her children, reduced to chess pieces in a corporate war. Daddy, who's that man? Emma's small voice shattered the tension. Lon turned, saw his daughter, really saw her for the first time. The tablet nearly slipped from his hands. Emma stood in her faded princess pajamas, clutching a stuffed elephant with one ear missing. Noah appeared behind her, shy and curious, peeking around his sister. Lon's composure cracked. The ruthless billionaire vanished, replaced by something raw and broken. I'm a friend of Mommy's. Allie cut in, heart hammering. Go back to your cartoons, babies. Do they know? Lon asked once the twins retreated. His voice was hoarse. That their father is a billionaire who never wanted them? No, I spared them that. I didn't want them. The words exploded from him. That phone call, it was Damien. He told me you'd miscarried, that you blamed me and never wanted to see me again. He said he'd spoken to you personally. Allie's legs gave out. She caught herself on the counter. I waited. 3 months. I waited for you to call. I thought you were grieving. That I make it worse by contacting you. Damien said. Lon's fist slammed the wall. God, I was such a fool. Stop. Clarice's command cut through the emotion. Both of you. We don't have time for what-ifs. Damien Fisher knows his scheme is unraveling, which means he's dangerous. People who commit fraud don't just confess when caught. They escalate. As if summoned by prophecy, Allie's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Ms. Browning. The voice was smooth, cultured, nothing like Lon's intensity. My name is Damien Fisher. I believe my brother is with you. Tell him if he pursues this custody fight, I'll ensure those children never see either parent again. Some threats aren't legal. They're simply inevitable. The line went dead. If you're gripped by this story, drop a comment telling me what you'd do in Allie's position. Trust the man who abandoned her, or fight alone. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The silence after Damien's threat was suffocating. Allie watched Lon's face transform from shock to something colder, harder. The billionaire calculating his next move. He's bluffing, Lon said finally, but his voice wavered. Is he? Clarice rewound the call, her expression grim. That wasn't a legal threat. That was personal. What does Damien have that could make the twins disappear? Connections. Money. Our mother. Lon sank into the nearest chair, suddenly looking decades older. She's never forgiven me for being father's favorite. If Damien convinced her that I'm unfit, that Allie is dangerous. Your own mother would help kidnap her grandchildren? Allie's voice rose. My mother would do anything to protect the family legacy. And right now, I'm the threat to it. Lon looked up, meeting Allie's eyes. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I brought this nightmare to your door. For 5 years, Allie had imagined this moment. The apology, the explanation. She'd scripted 1,000 responses, each dripping with justified rage. But watching him crumble, this man who commanded boardrooms and moved markets, she felt something unexpected. Recognition. He looked exactly how she'd felt every night, staring at two sleeping children and drowning in inadequacy. "We protect them," she said. "I don't care about your family politics or your billion-dollar empire. Whatever it takes, we protect Emma and Noah." "Agreed." Lon straightened, and the CEO snapped back into focus. "Clarice, I need a forensic team on Damien's finances. If he's been paying off investigators, there's more. And I want security on this building tonight." "Already making calls." Clarice stepped into the hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Alone, Lon and Allie faced each other across the cramped kitchen. The air felt electric, charged with 5 years of grief and rage and what-ifs. "Can I?" Lon gestured toward the living room where cartoon music played. "Can I meet them? Really meet them?" Every maternal instinct screamed no. He was still a stranger, still the man who'd left her drowning. But he was also their father, and those children deserved to know the truth. "5 minutes," Allie said. She led him to the living room. "Emma, Noah, come here, please." The twins approached, curious and cautious. Allie knelt to their level. "Remember how you sometimes ask about your daddy?" Emma's eyes went wide. Noah grabbed his sister's hand. "This is him. This is your father." Lon dropped to his knees, and Allie watched this man, worth billions, commanding thousands, break completely. Tears streamed freely as Emma cautiously touched his face. "You look like Noah," she whispered. "He looks like me," Lon managed. "You both. You're perfect." Noah, shy and uncertain, held up his inhaler. "I have asthma." "I did too. When I was your age." Lon's voice cracked. "It gets better, I promise." "Mr. Fischer." Clarice burst back in, face ashen. "We have a problem. I just received the DNA test results from your countersuit filing. And there's a third genetic contributor in the twins' profiles. Someone added false markers to make it look like you're not the biological father." Clarice's hands shook. "Damien's been planning to destroy your custody case before it starts. But there's more. The lab tech who processed it?" She just turned up dead. The room spun. Allie pulled Emma and Noah close, their small bodies the only real thing in a world that had just tilted into nightmare. "Dead." Lon's voice was ice. "Accident or rue de suicide." She jumped from her apartment balcony 2 hours ago. Clarice's professionalism fractured. "But her sister just called me. Said she'd been terrified. Said someone threatened her family if she didn't falsify the results. Damien's cleaning up loose ends." Lon stood, already reaching for his phone. "We need police protection, witness protection. With what evidence?" Clarice cut him off. "Everything's circumstantial. Shell corporations, anonymous threats, a suspicious death that's officially suicide. Your brother is too smart to leave fingerprints." Allie's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email. You have 1 hour to decide." Her hand shook as she opened her inbox. The message contained a single video file. She pressed play. The footage showed the twins' daycare. Emma on the swing set. Noah building blocks in the sandbox. Time stamped from this morning. A new message appeared. "Beautiful children. So fragile. Drop the lawsuit and disappear, or find out how fragile." Allie's scream caught in her throat. The phone clattered to the floor. Lon grabbed it, watched the video, and went absolutely still. The kind of still that preceded violence. "I'm pulling them from daycare," Allie gasped. "We're leaving. Tonight. I'll change our names, move states, whatever it takes. He'll find you." Lon's voice was hollow. "Damien has resources I don't even know about. If he wants to hurt them, then what do we do?" Allie's composure shattered. 5 years of holding everything together, and it all came crashing down. "Tell me, because I can't lose them. They're all I have." "Mommy." Emma's terrified face appeared. "Why are you yelling?" Allie couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. The walls closed in. This apartment that had been their sanctuary now felt like a trap. Clarice's phone rang. She answered, listened, and went pale. "There's more. Judge Morrison, the one assigned to your custody case, just recused himself. Said he received threats against his family. The new judge is Harold Paxton." Lon's face turned to stone. "Paxton's been in Damien's pocket for years. We just lost our only fair shot at custody." So it's over. Allie heard herself say it. Distant. Numb. He wins. No. Lon turned to her, desperate. We run. Take the twins and disappear. I have resources Damien doesn't know about. Offshore accounts, properties in countries without extradition. And live as fugitives? Rob them of any normal life. Tears streamed down Allie's face. That's not protection. That's prison. It's survival. Stop. Clarice stepped between them. Both of you are panicking. That's what Damien wants. Scared people make mistakes. Then what's the play? Lon demanded. Because right now, I'm looking at losing my children or watching them get hurt. Those are the only options. The apartment fell silent, except for the twins' frightened whimpering. Allie looked at this man, the father of her children, the billionaire powerless to protect them, the stranger she'd once loved. There's a third option, she whispered. But you'll hate it. Lon's eyes locked on Allie's. What option? We give him what he wants. Allie's voice steadied, clarity cutting through panic. I drop the lawsuit. Publicly. Make a statement that I was wrong, that I'm withdrawing all claims. Absolutely not. Listen. Allie grabbed his arm. Damien's power comes from the legal battle. The publicity. The stock pressure. If I withdraw, what does he have? He's committed fraud and possibly murder to stop something that's no longer happening. Clarice's eyes widened. You'd be laying a trap. Exactly. He gets cocky. Thinks he's won. Lets his guard down. Allie turned to Lon. And while he's celebrating, you launch a criminal investigation. Not a custody suit, a fraud case. Conspiracy. Maybe accessory to murder if we can prove the lab tech connection. Lon stared at her like seeing her for the first time. That's actually brilliant. But you'd be sacrificing your only legal protection. If it doesn't work, then I lose the same way I'd lose anyway. Allie's chin lifted. But this way, we control the narrative. We draw him out. He threatened our children, which means he's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Allie glanced at Emma and Noah, still huddled together. I've spent 5 years protecting them alone. I could do a few more weeks if it means ending this. Lon's expression shifted, respect mixing with something deeper. You're terrifying, you know that. I'm a mother. Same thing. Clarice was already typing. I have a contact at the FBI, white-collar crimes division. If I can get them the banking records, the falsified DNA results, testimony about the lab tech's fear. My head of security is loyal to me, not Damien. Lon pulled out his phone. He'll testify about the payments. And I can get phone records showing Damien's calls to me 5 years ago. We need leverage. Something that makes Damien confess. Allie paced the small kitchen. What does he care about more than winning? The company. Fisher Global is his identity. Lon's eyes hardened. And I still control 48% of voting shares. If I threaten to tank the stock, trigger a hostile takeover, he'd have to respond. Negotiate. And that's when we record him. Clarice nodded. Get him to admit what he's done. It was insane. Dangerous. Built on a dozen assumptions that could collapse. But it was hope. I'll make the statement tomorrow, Allie said. Tearful interview. Say, I was overwhelmed, made a mistake, that Lon deserves his privacy. The media will crucify you. Lon's voice softened. They'll call you every name in existence. I've been called worse at the diner. I'll survive. Allie met his eyes. Will you? When this gets ugly. Lon moved closer, and the cramped kitchen felt suddenly smaller. 5 years ago, I failed you. I believed lies instead of fighting to find you. I let someone steal our family. His hand lifted, hesitant, and touched her face with devastating gentleness. I won't fail you again. Whatever it takes, my reputation, my company, the entire $600 million Damien's fighting for. I'll burn it all down before I let him hurt you or our children. The air between them crackled. Then we do this together, Allie whispered. The press conference was scheduled for noon. By 11:30, Allie stood backstage at the Fisher Global Auditorium, her carefully practiced speech trembling in her hands. The words tasted like poison. I was mistaken. I overreacted. I withdraw all claims. You don't have to do this. Lon appeared beside her, suited and armored, but his eyes were on her alone. Yes, I do. She straightened her borrowed dress. Nothing designer, deliberately modest. The wronged woman backing down. Is everything ready? FBI's in position. Clarice has the recordings queued. My security chief is wearing a wire. Lon's jaw tightened. But Damien's unpredictable. If he suspects, he won't. He thinks he's already won. The stage manager signaled. Allie walked into camera flashes and murmured questions, playing her part perfectly. Humble, overwhelmed, apologetic. I made a mistake, she said into the microphones, voice shaking with genuine fear masked as regret. Mr. Fischer deserves his privacy. I'm withdrawing my lawsuit and asking for the same privacy for my family. The reporters erupted. She fled the stage as planned, straight into the private corridor where Lon waited. Phase 1 complete, Clarice confirmed via earpiece. Damien just texted Lon requesting an immediate meeting. He's taking the bait. 30 minutes later, Lon sat across from his brother in the Fischer Global Executive Boardroom. The space where their father had built an empire, now the stage for its potential destruction. Damien wore victory like cologne. Well played, brother. I knew she'd fold. You threatened children. Lon's voice was ice. Our children. Alleged children. That DNA test would have proven otherwise. Damien poured scotch, casual. Though it's moot now. The lab tech can't testify to any irregularities. Because she's dead. Tragic. Suicide, I heard. Damien's smile was poison. But these things happen when people get involved in situations beyond their understanding. Lon's fist clenched beneath the table. The wire taped to his chest felt like fire. You destroyed 5 years of their lives. Of my life. I saved the company. Father's legacy. Damien leaned forward. You were always too soft, Lon. Too emotional. That woman and her brats would have ruined everything we built. They're your niece and nephew. They're leverage you no longer have. Damien raised his glass. Now sign the custody agreement I drafted. You get supervised visitation twice a month. I don't release the fabricated DNA results showing you're not the father. And if I refuse, then the world believes you're a billionaire who abandoned his illegitimate children and harassed an innocent woman. Your reputation burns. The stock crashes, and I buy out your shares for pennies on the dollar. Damien's eyes glittered. Either way, I win. Just like I won 5 years ago when I made that phone call telling you she'd miscarried. The confession hung in air thick with electronic surveillance. You know what? Lon stood, and his smile was terrible. You're right. You won. He opened the boardroom doors. FBI agents flooded in. Damien's glass shattered against the floor. Damien Fischer, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit murder. 3 months later, Allie stood in a place she'd never imagined. The living room of Lon's penthouse, watching Emma and Noah sprawl across a carpet that cost more than her old apartment's annual rent. Daddy watched. Emma executed a wobbly cartwheel. Lon, billionaire CEO, master of boardrooms, dropped everything to applaud like she'd won Olympic gold. Perfect form. Noah, you want to try? Her son, no longer wheezing thanks to the best pulmonologist money could afford, shook his head shyly. I want to finish my tower. Then we build. Lon settled onto the floor in his $1,000 suit, stacking blocks with careful reverence. Allie's heart did something complicated. Damien's trial had been swift. The FBI's evidence, recordings, financial trails, testimony from the terrified security team he'd manipulated, built an insurmountable case. He'd pleaded guilty to avoid additional charges. 15 years minimum. Their mother had disowned him publicly, though privately. Allie suspected the woman was more embarrassed than heartbroken. Fischer Global's stock had initially plummeted, then soared when Lon announced a new company direction. Ethical technology, fair labor practices, radical transparency. Turned out Wall Street loved a redemption story. Penny for your thoughts? Lon appeared beside her, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. He learned how she took it. Too much cream, 2 sugars. Just processing. 6 months ago, I was counting pennies for pasta. Now my kids have a trust fund and a father who cries at every school performance. That concert was very moving. Emma's recorder solo was art. She played 3 notes off-key, passionately off-key. His smile was soft. I have 5 years to make up for. I'm not missing anything. They stood in comfortable silence, watching their children play. The custody agreement had been finalized last week. Joint custody, co-parenting plan, both names on every decision. Not a battle, a partnership. Allie, Lon set down his coffee, suddenly nervous. This man who'd faced down federal prosecutors and hostile boards was fidgeting. I know we're taking things slow. For the kids. For us. But I need to say something. Her pulse quickened. 5 years ago, I fell in love with a woman at a rooftop restaurant who challenged everything I thought I knew about life. Then I lost her because I was a coward who believed lies instead of fighting. He took her hand. I found her again. And she's even more extraordinary than I remembered. Stronger. Fiercer. The best mother. The bravest partner. And his voice cracked. I don't want slow anymore. I want forever. I want morning chaos and terrible recorder concerts and choosing us every single day. Tears blurred Allie's vision. Lon, I'm not asking for an answer now. Just know that when you're ready, I'm here. I'm all in. Emma crashed into their legs. Group hug. Noah piled on, giggling, and standing there, surrounded by her children and the man who'd fought his way back to them. Allie felt something she'd forgotten existed. Hope. Peace. Home. Maybe not so slow, she whispered against Lon's shoulder. His arms tightened around them all. What did you think? Drop a comment with your favorite moment from this journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because more incredible stories are coming and you won't want to miss a single one. Where are you watching from? Let me know below. Until next time, remember, even the darkest situations can lead to the most beautiful endings. Keep believing.